Eastern Bloc Airguns is back with the final review of the Edgun Matador. I'm going to share my history, my experience over the past year and a half. I'm going to share a lot of tricks, a lot of trial and error, things that I tried, and the things that worked for me to get this gun shooting accurately. I'm going to be discussing a bunch of things. First, I'll go over a history of the gun. What happened when I first got it, and then I'll go over some barrel maintenance, some fire lapping, which is if this is the first gun that I ever tried fire lapping in, and then I'll tell you about my experience with the regulator that I had, the two different regulators I had in this gun, and then I'm going to tell you about the bipod, the right bipod, and then I'm going to tell you about the types of ammo this gun shoots. Of course, you already know it shoots slugs, but you don't know about pellets yet. And then I'm going to tell you about the gun's weight, what weight works with this gun and what weights don't as much, and how I got this gun weighing this amount. So, hope you enjoy. Alright, when I first got this gun, I wanted to compare it to the Lelia, thinking that I wanted to see how much more accurate this gun was compared to the Lelia because of the longer barrel. And I started shooting about 880 and the Lelia was about 870. They're roughly really close to the same speed. And I noticed repeatedly that the Lelia shot better than this. And I didn't understand why. The Lelia was, at that day, was shooting about 2-inch groups, and this was shooting about 3-inch groups. And I took it back from the range, kind of confused, and I cleaned the barrel really well. I took the barrel completely out and just wanted to look at it, and I noticed that when I cleaned it with heavy solvents, a lot of black stuff came out, and it seemed to me that possibly the person who had it maybe didn't get it completely cleaned from the manufacturing process. A lot of times they'll put a little bit of oil in there and you maybe swab it once, then you shoot pellets, and then that oil is going to ignite and carbonize the inside of the barrel. So I used some heavy solvents, cleaned it out really well, and then I reshot it, and it clearly shot better. And at that point, I was still shooting 18 grainers, and they were actually shooting about the same. The Lelia and this were shooting about the same, and I was surprised because I always thought longer the barrel, more accurate. I mean, I tell you, this is easier to shoot. It's easier to lay in a bag or on a bipod than the Lelia. But when you get a solid stance with the Lelia and this, they're still about the same. So I even tried Monster redesigns, thinking those would shoot better since this has power. So I upped the power, and it's still not shooting better than the Lelia. The Monster designs actually shot worse for the first year, for the first few months. So then I started thinking, what does the Lelia have that this one doesn't? And then it came to me, the Lelia has, at this point, had 4,000 or 5,000 shots through it, and it cleaned the barrel hundreds of times. And then I pulled some patches through, and I could feel it. I could almost tell that maybe the Lelia barrel was smoother. When I pull a tight patch through, I could feel smoother, and the Matador was more like a little rougher. So I started thinking, what can I do to speed this process up? I just don't want to shoot 5,000 shots and keep cleaning the barrel. What a waste. And that's where the first time I've ever done anything like this, I tried fire lapping, and I'll go through that right now. This is when I come to fire lapping. This is the first time I've ever tried it, and after talking to a lot of other air gunners, they always don't want to talk about this, but they're probably going to be mad at me for talking about this, to tell you the truth, but I'm going to anyway. So I got an idea about, somebody mentioned different types of polishes, and I found this kit here that has 5 different types of polish, starting from coarse to extra fine. And I wanted to speed this process up as quick as possible, so I decided to try to use something harder than lead to fire. And that, I had many of these on hand because I shoot another gun. I ended up using GTOs, which is a hard alloy. And I got them wet with like Brisball or some type of air gun damp oil or silicone WD-40. Just sprayed a tiny bit in an empty tin, put 20 GTOs in, and shucked them around just to get them just tiniest bit wet. And then you put a little bit of this little tiny bit of this dry, coarse polish in, and you want them to the dry polish to stick to them. And you take them out and fire each one. I did about 20 for coarse, 20 all the way down to very fine, and then very fine I did 40 or 50. And in between each one I would clean the barrel really well. It took a whole day. And then I got back out to the range and I shot the 18 grains again. I tuned the gun back down, shot the 18 grains, and the gun was finally shooting better than the Lelia. And I shot my Ronson redesigns and they were shooting better. Still not as good as 18 grains and low wind, but they were shooting better. The gun, this clearly helped the gun. So that's something maybe to think about if you want to do it yourself. Speed up the process of smoothing out the barrel. I would say in one day I probably got the barrel as smooth as shooting 4,000 shots probably. So I really think this did work. Another factor that greatly contributed to the accuracy in this gun was the weight. I have this gun right now filled with folded, solid chunks of lead, and the gun is weighing about 13.5 pounds with the scope right now. Just solid. It sits on that bipod amazingly. I found a good use for hunter supply ammo. I was able to put them in the cavity of my stock, and but they ended up clogging up the gun, bouncing around. I didn't like it. You could hear them bounce. So I ended up making a mold for the cavities. I'll show you that picture right there. And pouring molten lead in, and then putting that lead in the cavities of the gun. And if you want good accuracy, that weight absolutely helps. You got to do something like that. I have a mold. Contact me on Airgun Nation if you like those weights. Next is barrel maintenance. What I started using was a cotton brush on top of this rod. Now I'd swab it back and forth, and I used maybe 2 of them, 3 of them, and it started coming out clean. And then I figured it was good because it came out clean, but that's not the case. The barrel may still be dirty, but you might not be getting anything on those. So I ended up experimenting a little more, and I ended up getting these. They come with patchworm, and they're abrasive, a little bit abrasive, that will scratch a little bit of the barrel, get the stuff that's stuck on the inside of the barrel a little bit. And then I also have these cloth ones that are softer. And I'll use that. I'll get the barrel wet, and then use these to soak it up. And then I wanted more tension inside the barrel, and then I would cut little pieces of cloth, and I poke those on to thicken these up, and then they get tighter, and they warp around the barrel because they're soft. And they warp in all the crevices and lands in the grooves, and that is when you really get the barrel clean. And once the barrel is clean, really clean like that, that's a huge improvement in accuracy. And in between cleanings, when it's slugs, I only have about 75 shots before I have to do this again. And it's pretty quick and easy. I can take off the back with one screw, I think it's 4mm, take this off and take the shroud and baffles out, boom, pop it through probably 4 or 5 times, pull out like 4 dirty patches, 5 dirty patches, and it'll be completely clean, and then good for another 75 to 100 slugs. And when it comes to monster redesigns, it's about 150. I can get about 150 before I start losing accuracy. So for cleaning the barrel, that's what you have to do. That's next comes to the regulator, my experience with the original and the Huma regulator. And I was very pleased with the original regulator. It worked well. I was happy with it, but I just wanted more. And I spent the $150 on a Huma reg and installed it in my gun. And I ran into one little issue. I had a couple leaks and found there was a missing O-ring. I'll show you that photo on this. And after I got a new O-ring put in, and then I got some creep. I got the creep eliminated by buying a new O-ring set and installing it. And now it was working good, and I was able to really test this one to this one. And the results were marginally better. So this one, the foot per second spread in a 10-round magazine was roughly 15, and this was about 10. So this is only about 10 feet per second more, and I don't know how much that would translate in downrange, but it was slightly better. And then the power-wise, I was able to achieve, I would say, I think it was about 15 feet per second more at the same reg pressure with the Huma. Maybe it was 20 feet per second. I can't remember. It was just a small increase, which was good for a flat trajectory. But the real thing is, if you can get the same power with the same reg setting, and you can get some extra shots by lowering the reg setting, and you help harmonics by not having such a high reg setting. The gun will jump less. So all in all, I think this Huma did help the gun. And if you want extreme accuracy, like minute of angle, I would recommend buying one of these. Not saying this, if you just want it for hunting, this one works absolutely fine. If you want the gun just to blast stuff, this Edgun regulator was spot on. So, and another thing I had to invest in was an actual reg tester. I didn't want to guess what the reg was. I mean, the Huma regs are marked, but it's too difficult. You always wonder, is it marked right? Is it really what the sticker says? So I got this reg tester, and I tested it, and I can know exactly where my reg was, which was a great relief, and I recommend doing that. I was able to put it back and forth. If I found one reg pressure, I didn't have to guess which turn was that. Was that a quarter turn? I knew exactly. And another big thing is, if you plug this in, you know, and watch it for 10 minutes, you know if the reg's creeping. And I did not see any creep, and I could obviously know that my gun is not creeping, at least at room temperature. So that was a confidence builder buying this. So in September last year, I figured this thing was shooting well, and I decided I would try it in a competition. And I read, and I found that this competition at Trainier Outdoors last summer at 100 yards was actually, we were able to shoot slugs. And I showed up to the competition being the only person there who actually read the rules that I could use slugs. And I thought I had the one in the bag, because the first round, I beat that guy in that photo by 1 point. And then during the finals, I had a jam. Now, these magazines are not made to hold slugs, or made to hold pellets. And during the finals, somehow a round slipped out and fell in. I'll show you a picture, and jammed my hammer. And at the time, I didn't know what was happening, and I couldn't take my gun away from the bench without being disqualified. So I tried to shoot. My gun was only shooting like half power because that, if you look at that picture, that round was blocking the hammer a little bit. And of course, I did bad, and I ended up just quitting. But all in all, it was probably good, and I ended up getting 5th place out of 5 in the finals, and Ted took it all. But it would have been bad. I think I would have had a lot of people mad at me because I was the only one there shooting slugs, and I knew if this gun didn't jam, I would have probably been the winner. And I had a lot of people angry at me because I read the rules and they didn't. But anyway, so that was the point where I decided I absolutely needed to figure out how this gun is going to hold slugs, because it shoots slugs so well that I was planning on investing lots of money on fixing this mag, and that's what I'm going to get into now. I started brainstorming. I started putting like tape inside the holes to put more tension on the slugs to keep them in. I started trying to find somebody who could maybe make another mag that could fit slugs. But after tons of brainstorming, it just occurred to me, try playing with the O-rings. Comes with 2 O-rings here for pellets. Put a tighter O-ring in, a thicker one or something, and I did. And I'll show you the photo of the difference between these 2 magazines, or a video. Just watch it. And one will hold the slugs horribly, one will hold them perfect. So after I put this O-ring in, the gun perfectly hold them. I had no problem since then at all in magazine issues. If I would have figured that out before September, I would have won $500 bucks, but it's okay. Live and learn, and I'm teaching you guys. So I would say they're probably 3 cents an O-ring. So buy a few, change it out, and then your gun's gonna hold the slugs. And that's the only real mod I did. Last thing I clearly helped with accuracy is a lockable bipod. You need a bipod that locks the bubble level into place every time. You cannot rely on canting the gun and leveling the bubble up every time. You forget one time, your 10-shot group that was sub-MOA turns to like a 2-inch group by one shot because you didn't check the bubble level. You can't be doing that all the time. You got to get a really solid bipod. And a wide and solid bipod to get that kind of accuracy, I've noticed. You have to. Now this is a Chinese one I got for about 80 bucks. I'll show you the picture. And I get one of them. I have actually bought 2 of them. One was perfectly solid. The other one had a little bit of wiggle that I had to work out. But for the price, they are very, very good. You gotta have that lock in. Talk about EBR in this gun. I took this gun to EBR, not feeling completely 100 great about it because it shot 18 grains better than my Lelia, but then when it comes to Monster redesigns in low wind, they actually shot worse than the 18 grainers because they always had 1 or 2 flyers, but in heavy winds they shot better. So I took this to EBR hoping that this gun would excel in the 50 and the first 2 75-yard events, and it did decent. In the 75, I took 8th, and the second round 13th, and just missed the finals by a hair. But the 50-yard, it would have done great, but just as 30 seconds before the event started, my contact went flying out of my eye because of the heavy wind and dry wind. And I lost my contact 30 seconds before, and I couldn't even see my crosshairs, and I did horribly in that event. And then I actually made it to the finals in the speed event with this gun because of the magazine and the forward cocking on the left side. I was able to fill these magazines really fast with monster redesigns, put them in, and knock off the speed event quickly. And I made it to the finals in 10th spot. And then in the finals I did 2 spots better, A spot, without even practicing. So I was very pleased in that event with this gun. Surprising that I was able to do that. So all in all, after that event, I decided that this gun is good with these monster redesigns up to about 75, 80 yards, but it's not going to win any events. What this gun is just shines at is slugs, and from that point on, I focus only on slugs, and that's where I am today.